Man, I'm tired of this shit.
Dude, I was listening to that. Leave it alone.
This is absolute trash.
I don't care. Driver picks the station. Shotgun shuts his cake hole.
Passenger gets first dibs on everything. I have my finger on the button.
You know what? You want to fight about it?
Yeah.
Okay,
fuck
fine.
you.
Hey,
Fuck
man,
you.
leave it alone.
No.
It's mine.
Turn your trash off. Now look what you did.
All right. Hey, look at that. It's working. Welcome, everybody, to the Dissonant Harmonics podcast. My name is Frasier.
And I'm still Josh, and I still stand by the fact that Bull Thrower is the best band ever.
I don't even know who Bolt Thrower is.
Welp, that's a you problem.
It is a me problem. Welcome. We have been gone for a week. I had some stuff I had to take care of on my end, and schedules just didn't line up. Unfortunately, with us being 2 hours apart, we have to also include bedtimes and school and work and kids and
Other school.
It makes it and other school. It does make things a little bit more difficult to get podcasts out. We are going to try to double up here in a little bit so we can get you guys at least maybe even a bonus episode. Josh and I have noticed, at least in the past 2 weeks while we have been on attempting to get our schedules lined up, that like 8 good albums and EPs dropped. And we're like, we can't possibly keep up with this schedule. It's going to take us 2 months to get all of these albums reviewed. So we might just do an quick album review episode on all the albums we wanted to review for the past few months or so, and just kind of go nuts. And maybe it's a half hour, maybe it's 45 minutes, maybe it's an hour, but it'll be an extra little bonus.
It's a 2-hour episode. Don't lie to them.
Yeah, because we're going to rant and rave about everything and nitpick the living hell out of all the music.
Exactly. So 2 hours.
All right, and in 2 weeks, fortunately, I don't know. It's good entertainment, but unfortunately, we've had a lot of news come through, some of it tragic, some of it good, so we got to cover all of that. I just start with this because I'm a fan of Crazy Town. I don't think anybody didn't see this coming, but they've finally announced the cause of death for Shifty Shell Shock. I can't think of the guy's actual name. That's how much of a fanboy I am.
Obviously, it was a chocolate overdose.
Right. Obviously, as we all knew, he had a heroin addiction, and it was very public beforehand. So that came out. It's fentanyl. In his system were fentanyl, methamphetamine, and I think cocaine. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but there were 3 major drugs. Unfortunately, no shock there, but also, yeah, I was right. Fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine. So not the best news, but I don't think anybody didn't see that coming.
I did, because I totally forgot they were still a band.
Well, they're not anymore. So may he rest in peace. It's unfortunate. It's not cool, but drugs kill people, dude. So do addiction. Stay away from drugs.
And then sometimes when you have drugs, they don't kill you, and they just make you try to punch Dave Navarro on stage and then end your band.
For anyone that's lived under a rock for the past 2 weeks, it's been the biggest news in the rock and metal industry.
Yeah, so there was a interview that came out with, I believe it's their bass guitar tech for Jane's Addiction, saying that apparently, as far as he is aware of, that Jane's Addiction is like 100% done.
Yeah.
That apparently Perry Farrell is, shockingly, was just getting drunk at all the shows. Apparently he had heard from Perry Farrell's wife that Perry Farrell was completely convinced the entire band was trying to basically fuck him over and make him sound terrible live, when that was kind of a him problem. And
I also heard that one of the rumors is that he had actually quit the band before this tour even started, and the basis of that was because basically the artwork he wanted to use for the backdrops of a couple of their songs were literally his wife dancing in the desert or something like that. Not sure if those were nude or not. I just know it was dancing somewhere, and it was pictures and artsy stuff that he had done, and basically the other band members had shot that down. There was also, as you said, Dave Navarro was criticizing some of his live abilities and how they weren't up to snuff, and
it sounds like
that personally.
It sounds like he wasn't also trying. It sounds like a lot of times when Dave would bring this up to him, he would purposely then try to sing it out of time just to mess with him.
Yeah. So it sounds like Perry Farrell's probably back on drugs and alcohol, and probably needs to get to rehab. Obviously, we've all heard the rumor that Dave Navarro has officially called it quits one way or another, and he's done with the bullshit.
I mean, it's fair. I'm not going to have
Right.
somebody trying to deck me on stage. And apparently the fight also continued backstage, too.
Yeah, and Perry Farrell, or Dave Navarro, basically asked, what the F was that, mother effer? And Perry decided to take that opportunity to punch him in the face.
Yeah, the guitar tech even said that you could hear the contact between the fist and Dave's face.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you
So
lucky folks who were at the Jane's Addiction show probably just saw the last Jane's Addiction show.
Yep.
So you better save that
over.
ticket and sell it.
All right, and then another one which we will actually will lead us into our topic today is Il Nino's second singer who has been on hiatus. Tommy Vext has taken his place live, because this is the Tommy Vext podcast. Has officially announced that he is done with Il Nino. That he will be on the next record, and he recorded his parts of the next record, but beyond that, he is done with the band entirely.
And it sounds like it was a pretty amicable split. Like, they both put out, not even their versions of it, but they both put out statements between the band and the singer and said that basically they just mutually agreed to part ways and just said, my time with El Nino was great. I'll still be on the next album. It's some of my best stuff I feel like I've done with the band. So, but he won't be touring for that, obviously, because he won't be with them. So I'm wondering if Tommy Vext is just going to take over singing those new songs live, which there's probably going to be like one.
I really honestly hope that Tommy Vext doesn't hitch his wagon to his horse to this wagon.
He will.
I don't. It's Il Nino was a dying band and franchise and brand years ago, and this is not the way to make, especially with the reputation the drummer has, this is not the way to make yourself look better in the music industry. Like, everyone knows the story of Il Nino and what happened there, so don't do this.
And their drummer's the only original member even left.
Right. So there was that. I can't think of anything else. Whitechapel's new drummer.
Yeah, Whitechapel has a new drummer.
That's all I got. You can look into that if you want to. Not a huge deal. No real drama there.
I mean, Whitechapel has also been through like 6 drummers.
Right. Like, that's the only member they can't seem to keep.
They have a pretty consistent pattern of drummer leaves, they bring on a session drummer to fill in for the tour, they make him a full-time member, he ends up leaving, they bring in another one, that session drummer starts recording the next album on the next tour, then they offer the invitation for him to be a full-time member, and then he sticks around for like a year or two, and then they or the drummer moves on to another band.
What's his name? Ivan Moody from Five Finger Death Punch. I haven't watched the video yet, but fractured his rib on stage at his show at Louder Than Life.
Oh,
oops.
No.
And that reminded me of another one. For Pete's sake. Marilyn Manson is releasing a new album.
Yep.
His comeback. He looks thinner and healthier, which is good.
It's all those ribs he had removed.
Right.
If you were in the public school system, you would know that Marilyn Manson obviously had his bottom 2 ribs removed so that he could fellatio himself.
Yeah, we're going to say that in the most politically correct way possible.
Well, no, because my mommy listens to this one, so I don't want to say blowjob on air.
And then the other one I wanted to say, Macklemore has been kicked off of I think it was Neon Fest or something like that. He was supposed to headline. He wasn't just an act. He was headlining a show in Vegas.
How do you headline an entire show with just Thrift Shop?
Right. And so he has been promptly kicked off that show because he decided to chant F America, or at least say it to some degree after going on a little bit of a spaz rant. Having to do with the Israel-Palestine thing. I'm not going to get into that because that's political, but he said F America, and now he's not on the show anymore, and he's no longer the headlining act.
I would like to welcome you all to an entirely new subset of the American dream called cancel culture,
mm-hmm.
where you can't say anything that's, protected by the Freedom of Speech Act, but like George Orwell says, all animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
Well, but you also have, so here's how I look at it. You have the freedom of speech to say whatever you want. I don't agree with Macklemore at all. I have I very much have the opinion that yes, we have a not perfect country, but if you really hate it that much, especially Macklemore has every ability to go buy a plane ticket and live somewhere else.
That's what I want to do.
But with that being said, also everything is covered except for obviously threats of violence or anything like that under the First Amendment. But the First Amendment doesn't protect you from the consequences of those actions.
No.
And if you're going to be headlining, and I mean any show, let's say you're going to, if you're going to headline or be a part of any show, and and it turns out it's run by a veteran or something like that, don't expect to be like welcomed with open arms. I forgot there was another band that did this. They went out, they accepted to do a festival, accepted to get paid, but and they knew this going into it. They signed the contract, and one of the sponsors was the U.S. Army. And so they went out on stage and basically protested, and then they didn't get paid and got mad about it. And they're like, you knew who was paying you. Like, what were you thinking? So, yeah. Keep in mind, there's I mean, like I tell everybody when I go on stage, I have a buddy of mine who's heavy into politics, and he asked me one time, he's like, why do you, or how do you, whatever, keep a lid on it, or kind of asked me he asked me, it wasn't a loaded question, but he did ask me something along the lines of like, why don't you do this and this and this, or why don't you talk about politics? And I basically said, businessman off stage, rock star on stage. It's that simple. Keep them separate. So
you're telling me that you're not like Aaron Lewis.
Yeah, again, I did so I'm going to plug them because they've plugged us. I was on a podcast with a friend of mine called Listen Motherfucker Podcast. It's a buddy of mine named Thad Olson that does it up here. Not Fat, Thad, Thad. And he asked before we started, he goes, is there any subject you're not open to talking about? I said, no, but if you ask me about politics, I'm not going to say him a whole lot. Like, I'm just not, because I don't have that desire to get down that rabbit hole, and I don't have that desire to blast my opinion everywhere. So, but you do you, boo-boo. Okay, anything else?
Brew Harry is probably done as a band.
Okay, who is Brew Harry for everybody that doesn't know, because all 100 other fans are probably crying right now.
145, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the 5.
No, they're a Spanish death metal band. They've been around for, probably like 20 years now.
And I still haven't heard of them.
Yeah, I know. So weird. I don't know why you don't listen to what I send you. But, so in July, their, let's see, who was it? It was their singer died in July.
Oh.
And they canceled a few shows. They dealt with everything going on, and I believe went back to touring after that with a new singer. But now their founding member, Juan Bruja, died of a heart attack at 61.
Okay.
So sounds like Brujeria is going to be pretty much done. I can't see him, because this last one was the main lyricist of the band and was the main founding member. So it sucks. Brujeria is a pretty good band, in my opinion. I haven't gone too deep into them. I have a couple of their albums, and I enjoy listening to them. I used to play them at work, because I had a Spanish guy that worked for me, so I'd play him sometimes at work just to see what his reaction would be.
Oh, we forgot 2 big ones. So the band Power Trip, their fans are pissed because now they are
Power Trip fans should be pissed for multiple reasons. My main reason is the fact that Power Trip even came back in the first fucking place, because no reason for Power Trip to be back without their vocalist after Riley Gale died. Riley Gale died.
Well, this one says that Riley Gale had some thoughts. They interviewed Riley Gale. I don't think Riley Gale's dead.
Are you sure not thinking about the interview that he did talking about why he doesn't want to tour with Superjoint?
Oh, he is dead. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
I
So
know I'm right.
I don't know.
So
I know
Power
nothing
Trip,
about Power Trip.
Power
Give
Trip,
the story. Give the story.
Power Trip fans are upset because back in the day, it was an interview with Riley Gill, their for reason of deceased vocalist,
He died.
talking about how he was given an option to do an opening touring ritual, which is Phil Anselmo's band after Pantera. Superjoint's kind of one of those kind of weird
Stoner.
bands. They're it's not as stonery as Down, but it's definitely a band. So years and years ago, Phil Anselmo, because he doesn't have the same comedic timing that everybody else does and the comedic ideology everybody else does, decided to start chanting white power at, I believe it was some sort of benefit show.
And making a Sieg Heil motion at the same time.
Yeah. When he was asked about it later, he said that it was, quote, because he was so drunk on white wine that he was praising the white wine that he had during the show. And saying the white power as the white wine power. And Riley Gale did not like that. And would go on to say that anything that Phil Anselmo does band-wise, he doesn't want Power Trip with at all. They're from the same state. So a lot of people want to see them tour together just to support Texas, where they're from. But with all that going on, Riley Gale absolutely said, absolutely not. There will never be any tour with this band and anything with Phil Anselmo. Riley Gale dies. Power Trip decides to continue on with a new vocalist from another band. I forget which band he was, but they're friends. And he was supposed to do the benefit show, and it turns out that now he's going to be the full-time vocalist. And now is, I believe, touring with this weird bastard version of Pantera that's running around.
Yes. Or they're about to open up for him.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of very dedicated Power Trip fans are very upset at the fact that Riley Gale said no, and the entire band seemed to be on board with that decision. But now that Riley Gale's not here to say no, Pantera, and not even the good half of Pantera.
So that everybody knows this is capitalism at its finest. Hey, we need money, so we're just going to go tour with whoever can get us on a bill.
Yeah, and with a band like Pantera, I mean, you're gonna be making your money opening for a band like that, especially with, again, the weird bastard version that's running around right now. But hey,
Right.
At least they said they're not recording a new album.
You're right. With that being said, we have one more big one, which breaks my little black heart. Veil of Maya is going on indefinite hiatus and has canceled all subsequent tours, projects, schedules, everything. They just flipped the proverbial career table and went, we're done. There has been some speculation as to what's going on. A lot of it has to do with the idea that Lucas might be leaving the band or has left the band.
Lucas Magar being the vocalist.
Yes. And no one knows. A bunch of people are chanting, bring Brandon back, which I understand, but I also...
Bring Brandon back. You know why he left? You know why he left?
What? Yeah, because the bus wasn't very clean.
Yeah, the bus was dirty, so he said, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah, and he went and grabbed his kayak and moved up here to Seattle. He's running around here somewhere.
Yeah, I moved to the South because the people are crazier in Washington. That's why I left and moved to the South.
You could argue that the people are crazier in Washington. It could be made. The argument could be made. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy argument, but it could be made.
I talked to a guy that I've been working with the last few weeks, and he even asked me the other day. He wants to know everything about you. Like, always wants to show an interest.
I have a stalker?
No, you wish.
Oh.
Had asked me, like, you know, what's the hardest part about moving somewhere all the way across the state or across the country like this to a new state? I was like, honestly, the biggest culture shock is the fact that y'all are too nice.
Mm-hmm. And there's no hobos everywhere.
Oh no, they're still hobos, but the hobos out here are actually trying to earn a living. The hobos out here are selling you bottles of water for $1.50. They're selling you the newspaper.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Only once have I seen a homeless person that just has a sign that says, "God bless, give me $1."
Right.
But he had asked me what the hardest part is, and it's like, you know, back in Washington. I went to the same gas station almost every single morning for 10 years. It was the same lady. I don't know her name. Never bothered to ask. She never told me. I go to the gas station here every Friday after work to pick up a couple energy drinks, and it's like those people want to know how my week's gone, how I'm doing that day, how work was. Like,
Southern hospitality, baby.
I get very uncomfortable, and it's like, why do you want to know?
Yeah, that's a Pacific Northwest thing. We are very, and I think a lot of people have done the study that it has to do with the weather, but we are very much like a almost rude, leave me alone, isolatory type of people because the fact that we are mostly inside away from other people and we view other people as an inconvenience.
Yeah, but when you have the summers out here in the South, it's 100+ degrees outside, so everybody stays inside.
Right. And then they're out the rest of the year.
I was just out last week, and I was out there with the kids riding around the cul-de-sac, and it was like my neighbor is a grandpa of 2 kids that are the same age, and like he's out there with my daughter, like helping her ride her bike, and was just, didn't even ask, didn't even like do it in some weird ways, like, oh, you're trying to learn how to ride a bike. So like she'd go past me, he'd go and like keep going with her, and it was nice. It was very nice. I didn't have to worry about him stealing my child.
Okay. Now that we've gone down
down your uncle corner.
The life update, we should get into the topic, and Josh, you can take the topic away because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot to say about this.
I will take it away, sir. The topic for today we touched on with El Nino, and it's a topic it's near and dear to my heart. It's something
it's one
that I'm
Josh has literally. Josh has asked me this question on the podcast before, and we've briefly touched on it, but we decided that we need to actually discuss it.
So, you know a band, you love a band, you like the band. But when all the members leave in lieu of one member, should that still be the same band? Why and why not? And I will counter whatever Frasier's looking at me to say right now by saying, you, sir, if Metallica's members all left except for Lars, would that still be Metallica? If you lose James, Kirk, and Robert, and you're only left with the metal midget who can't keep time and snare drums are an acceptable piece of equipment as a trash can lid, would that still be Metallica? If he formed a new version of Metallica, how would that go?
So, do you want me to answer that question legitimately now?
I don't care what you do. You're an adult.
So, the problem with that question is it's strictly a case-by-case scenario.
Right.
In your scenario you just gave with Metallica, no, it would no longer be Metallica. The main reason why is because the principal songwriter is James Hetfield. Lars was very much in control of the tempo and the arrangements, but James wrote the songs. Right. You lose James, you pretty much lose Metallica. Now, granted, Kirk helped write. That was, Kirk did help write and all that, but James was the principal songwriter. I'll give you another example. Breaking Benjamin completely scrapped their entire lineup except for Ben Burnley. That's still Breaking Benjamin because he's the principal songwriter.
Right.
Now let's tap into Il Nino, where literally the lead singer, the guitarist, and the bassist from Il Nino left, sued the drummer who was pulling major fraud, and they made their own band, and the drummer got to keep the rights to the brand name and songs called Il Nino. It's not El Nino. Fuck you. The drummer never wrote a goddamn thing. He was just basically, he was more or less like the only thing about the drummer that's notable is the fact that he has hanging cymbals that aren't on normal stands. They're cymbals that just hang out. If you've seen the drum kit, you Google it, you can figure out what I'm talking about. But that's not Il Nino. Literally all the members of Il Nino except for the drummer have left, and that drummer has nothing to do with the songwriting process, has nothing to do with the creative process, and never has and never will, except for now he gets to keep the brand name. That's not Il Nino, and the only reason he's keeping it is because the brand name has power. Another band like this that I just thought of is Mushroom Head. Exact same scenario. And actually, I forgot to mention this in news, Jeffrey Haddix, I can't remember his last name, but Jeffrey Nothing, the original vocalist of Mushroom Head, the guy that sounds, not to be rude, a little bit like a goat. He sings like a goat, kind of.
I've never liked Mushroom Head.
I was okay with them. I didn't hate them, but I mean, I'm a new metal.
Their new
softy.
album was good. I did listen to their new album, but I was never
See,
a
I
fan.
won't listen to anything after the album that had QWERTY on it. But the point being that Skinny, the drummer, has retained the rights to the name Mushroomhead, despite the fact that every vocalist they've ever had, every guitarist they've ever had, everything has left the band. And Skinny doesn't write shit. He doesn't. And so, or maybe it's not Stitch. Maybe it's Stitch. I can't remember. It's either Stitch or Skinny. I can't remember what his nickname is. But he has no writing power. It's no longer Mushroomhead. It's the drummer from Mushroomhead in a completely different band. So it varies case by case. I have a problem. My real muddy water problem area is when you start having bands that. I'll give you an example. Slaves, with Johnny Craig. Johnny Craig was the star power and the main reason Slaves was created. It was basically Johnny's solo project, but they gave it a band name. And the musicians changed, and like Alex Lyman was the principal songwriter on the first two albums, the Through Art We Are All Equals and then Routine Breathing. And then the next album, Alex Lyman left, and Johnny Craig stayed, and they still kept the same type of sound. It changed a little bit because Alex wasn't at the helm, but it was still Slaves. So that's kind of where I get kind of gray areaed and start kind of getting mad about, is it the same band? Is it not? I don't know, because it was all about Johnny Craig anyway, and it was just a way to label Johnny Craig's band. But then after Johnny Craig left, they kept the name Slaves, got a whole singer, and then everyone in the band smartly realized, oh wait, we don't have a single original member left, and the guy that this whole band was based around is gone, and they changed their name to Rain City Drive. And Rain City Drive is an amazing band in and of itself. So there are bands that do the right thing and do that. My big thing, my big concern... And then there's
bands like Escape the Fate.
Yeah, again, but that's the same scenario. The entire songwriting crew is gone. The original owner of the band name is the drummer, who doesn't do anything for the songwriting process. And the only reason that band is still called Escape the Fate is because the drummer hasn't changed the band name.
Right.
In that case, that's one of those ones where I think they should change the band name. You're not the same band anymore. You're just keeping a brand because you know you're going to make money off that name.
Right.
My biggest telltale... how do I put this? My biggest concern is if the principal songwriting crew is still intact. If they are not, it is no longer the same band. With the exception of, like Bad Wolves, like Slaves with Johnny Craig, if the band was specifically built by the record label or was specifically designed around one person in mind, like Johnny Craig as being the lead singer, or Bad Wolves was supposed to be a Tommy Vext solo project, then in that case, okay, I can see that. I'm okay with that because the whole point was that it was a solo project anyway, and they were going to hire out session drummers and session musicians to write whatever music they wanted to begin with.
Right.
But that's the biggest hang-up, is the principal songwriter there, and is the main guy that the band was built around there. Beyond that, start changing your name.
So how do we feel about Static X? That's kind of a touchier one, I feel like.
Give me your opinion on that, because I'm curious.
Okay, well, one, we all know it's Edsel Dope singing for him. I mean, they're not even hiding that.
No, they've admitted it.
I personally don't feel like, because I think this lineup has recorded music.
No. Oh yeah, well, I mean, they did the Revolution albums.
Yeah, Regeneration, right?
Regeneration.
Yeah, where it's all unused material that they went back and finished.
Right, and Edsel helped finish it.
Right. I don't feel like you can really call it Static X. I feel like it should just be like in celebration of Static X.
Yeah, I think, again, because and this is my opinion, I agree 100%. Due to the fact that they are doing this more as a tribute thing, and they're being, but as much as people might be pissed, they're doing it all the right ways. They
Right.
brought out a new singer to replace Wayne, and even though everyone knows who it is, they're not gonna officially disclose who it is. They masked him up. They're like, look, this is a person. We're doing this in celebratory of Static X because so many people still want to see us. And they do. I went to that show. The place is packed every show, sold out. And so they're doing it more
You saw
as
him with you saw him with Seven Dust, right?
and Dope, yes. And another band that I cannot remember right now, but the opening band was amazing. Lines of Loyalty. Oh my word. Anybody listen to this podcast, go look up Lines of Loyalty. My wife and I fell in love with them. They are great. It's a 3-piece band. They are fun. The only hang up I had with them is live. They have so many things that happen in the studio. It's a little with 3 guys, you can't pull off the soundscape that they do in the studio. So there were a bit of backing tracks, but that's because you can't have 3 guys playing all those notes.
Right.
So it was a little bit detached. But anyway, Static X is its own special thing because they're not doing it and saying, we are Static X, this is our new singer, da-da-da-da-da. They're trying to just keep the memory alive. And when they play live, I saw them, they pretty much only play the songs that Wayne wrote.
Right.
That's the difference. They are doing it very tastefully. They are coming out and saying, look, we are not, this is not our new singer, get used to it. They're saying, this guy is going to take the place of Wayne Static, and we are not going to disclose who he is. It's just a stand-in, basically, even though we all know who it is. So there's a difference there. They are doing it very tastefully and very heartwarmingly, I guess I would say, because it is nice. They come out on stage, and they're there to talk about Wayne the whole time.
Okay, because I know that was a huge point of contention when they started doing this again, because showing this, like, roboticized version of Wayne on stage with not Edsel Dope, but Edsel Dope.
Right.
Singing for him. I do agree. I think it is a good way to do it. I would just hate to see this lineup now go back and say, okay, well, this has been some good reception. We're going to go ahead and start recording new music.
Right.
But I don't think Edsel would do it.
Yeah, well, I don't think, and that's the thing. I don't think Edsel will either. And they've specifically, because Edsel and Wayne were great friends.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, we're just going to finish up the tracks. It's the opposite of what Linkin Park's doing. We're just going to finish up the tracks he had left over. I'm going to stand in and do them. We're going to finish recording them as Wayne wanted them. And that's going to be the whole discussion. We're not going to go any farther than that. And then we're just going to tour, and we're going to have a good time and all that fun stuff. Dope's going to release its own music. And that's it, and yeah, I like I said, that's the difference. Whereas Linkin Park's like, nope, this is the new person. We're recording. We're moving on without them.
Oh man, there's so much more stuff that's come out about Linkin Park now too.
Oh no, I didn't even. I can't, like, I have so many articles, because for those of you at home, I really don't like social media. I despise it with all my heart. So I pretty much only follow music pages, and the only reason I have a Facebook at all is because I have to promote my own music that I'm playing. But
Chester Bennington's mom actually came on and
that's what it was.
Kind of not really confirming what Chester's son was saying in terms of being kind of shut out from the band and their choices, but has come out and said some pretty not really distasteful things against Mike Shinoda, but has been talking about what she has been told from Chester, and
not just what she was been told, but that the guys, including Joe Hahn, that she ran into 4 years ago, said that they would let her know if there were plans to be a reunion or anything of the sort. And they're like, yeah, we'll let you know if there is. We're gonna go about this the right way, and we won't surprise you. And surprise, she found out via social media and phone calls, just like everybody else did.
Yeah, like there's, from what she has said, that Mike Shinoda had gotten in some tussles with Chester in terms of his vocals, and had straight up told Chester that he wanted to kick him out of the band and that they would just replace him with a girl.
That's different. The way I heard it and the way that I read it, and people can go home and look it up, is that it wasn't that he wanted him out of the band, it was that Chester wasn't doing well. And basically Mike Shinoda made an offhand comment, not to excuse it, but basically said, like, hey, if you're done, and it seemed like Chester wanted to be done, is the way I read it. He goes, well, if you're going to be done, we're going to replace you. And if I'm going to replace you, I'm probably going to replace you with a girl. And Chester was kind of shocked and taken aback by that. But it seemed like it was certainly during a time that there was tension in the band.
Right. You know who they should replace?
Who?
The lead singer of Suicide Silence, because he's terrible. All right, so album reviews.
Poor Eddie Hermida is not going to ever get a break.
Okay, no. Eddie on studio albums sounds good. Live, he does not sound good. I saw him with All Shall Perish, and he did really well. Ironically, I saw All Shall Perish with Suicide Silence when Black Crown was being released.
Right.
Yeah, no. Go back and listen to our review about Suicide Silence's last album. You're going to hear me very angry.
I want you to start with your album first because we're going to completely disagree on it, and then we can finish on a lighthearted note.
We're not going to disagree about my album.
We've already okay, hold on. And then I want to finish on my album because we both kind of agree on it, and it'll be fun and lighthearted anyway. So
what's not lighthearted about my album?
I literally texted. Okay, for those of you that don't know, Josh sent me his album, and I was dreading listening to it because he knew I was going to dread listening to it.
What?
So then I went ahead and listened to it, and I literally texted him, and I was like, "What did you send me?" He's like, he's like, "It's interesting, isn't it?" This is what Lara's like, "Cool," and he's like, "Cool" is a way to describe it. And I wrote back, because I thought he was joking, and at this point I thought he was doing it just to mess with me, and that it was a bad album. And I wrote back to him, I go, "This sounds like what Schizophrenia would sound like in music form." And he's like, I thought it was a decent album. I was like, "Oh my word, are you being serious?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm being dead serious." I was like, "I've just bashed one of your, like, an album you really like because I thought he was joking."
You're leaving out the other part where you said it sounds like Schizophrenia, but not good Schizophrenia, that you just feel bad for them.
Yes, exactly. And he's like, "But I like this album." And this is all over text, so I can't get context to his words. So for
people that don't know, I text very, very deadpan. I don't use a lot of emojis, and it's more, I text how I talk. I'm very blunt.
Well, and I thought that and Josh's humor is very dry sarcasm. So I figured he was being sarcastic and trolling me the whole time. So I was like, fuck it, I'm letting loose on this album. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think of this piece of shit. And he just writes back, "I actually kind of liked this album." I'm like, oh shit, I've just ripped into this album so hard. But I'm still going to do it.
Everybody's entitled to their wrong opinions.
Yes, I am going to stick to my guns on this one. So go ahead and tell everybody what you think.
So let's talk about my album. Let's see how mad you get. See if we can get you to Suicide Silence levels of mad.
Right.
So my album is by a band from Montreal, Quebec, called Insade. Insade has a new album called Human Obsession. This album is
Insade in the Membrane.
It is a old school death metal throwback album. This album is just
terrible.
It's a slab of old school 80s to 90s death metal. It's with an album cover that if you saw it, it'd probably look like it's been floating around in someone's garage for 30 years.
It honestly kind of looks like, not in a bad way, it honestly looks like the same kind of thing you would see on the Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails.
Yes, yeah, that's definitely the vibe that I got, because their other albums kind of look. They have 6 albums so far from like 2002. So they've been pumping out music pretty steadily for these. I think there's 4 members of the band with their 2 guitars and 2 vocalists on these albums. Their other albums have more of like a death metal look to them, and kind of look like that traditional death metal look of like, I don't know what I'm looking at, but that's a lot of red.
Lots of H.R. Geiger style.
Yeah. But this album, like, it caught my interest because it came out. It was new. It was released on January 4th of this year. And Tidal, it puts out, Tidal lets you know with notifications, what albums come out from bands that you like and you follow. That's why Frasier and I had this riveting conversation about how I didn't know Linkin Park had a new song, because I don't follow them on any social media besides just on Loudwire. So this one popped up as, an album like, oh, you listen to death metal, you might like this one. So I was like, oh, I'm going to give it a try. And it is Not to the point of caveman death metal where it's just pounding, but it definitely is adjacent to that.
Right.
And I love it. I love the old school death metal sound. I like it just sounding like somebody smacking against the wall to the tone of a very down-tuned guitar.
Right. Go ahead and finish up whatever you need to finish up here, because I'm primed and ready to rock.
Okay, so like I said, this band is from Montreal, Quebec. I couldn't really find a whole lot of information about them. I kind of dug into Bandcamp where they have all their albums that you can purchase and pay your money to support them. And I honestly say you should support them. I'm sure Frasier's going to bash me for that one. Give them money. They are. I would throw it back to probably not to like old Cannibal Corpse level of music, but definitely within that same vein of the first couple albums where tonally it's uncomfortable to listen to. Their title track for Human Obsession is probably my favorite track on the album. And you're looking like 4 to 5 minute songs of just barbaric metal. Like they kind of sound like what Skinless has now become. Skinless used to be, in my opinion, like a better version of Cannibal Corpse, Chris Barnes era. But they went back to their original vocalist, and now it just sounds like K-Man beating on a drum set. And their newest albums really aren't that good. This one sounds like a better version of like what Skinless was trying to do off their last album, Savagery. And Frasier has no idea what I'm talking about. And he's chomping at the bit. He's like eating his desk right now, just waiting for me to say something to be to pass the bat off to him.
Yep. Legitimately, I mean, I did not like this album whatsoever. Even the vocal. And here's my problem with albums like this. I immediately start listening for musicality, timing, tone, stuff like that, because it's just. Me and my buddy had this discussion last night because I was telling him about the new Kingdom of Giants EP. And he's like, yeah, I like heavy and I'm okay with screaming, but I don't like it for the sake of it being heavy. I don't like it for the sake of it being blast beats and shit, which is what this album is. But not only that, but there are obvious places in even the first song where the drums, like the dude misses the beat. I'm like just sitting there, just like squeezing my eyes shut. So I don't know if this was DIY'd or what, but the production, not even the production, they just needed to redo some of the takes. Like you could obviously hear like the vocalist is way off on key in some of the songs. The drummer is off in some of the parts of the songs. Like I said, it just whiplashes you so hard. To me, it was just schizophrenia. And not the good kind, like oh damn it, what do we do? So I don't know, it bugged the living hell out of me because you can hear it. Like I said, you could obviously hear where a drummer like missed a beat or something like that. I'm like, what? Come on. So yeah, sorry Josh, but I don't love your album. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
I mean, I didn't say you were going to like it. Let's just be fair about that. I never once said you're going to enjoy this album. Like, you did. I feel like you would have enjoyed Schizophrenia, the album we did last week, more than this one, obviously.
Yeah. I'm excited for your next album, though. I am. I'm excited for Black Dahlia Murder. That'll be good.
Black Dahlia Murder Servitude is flawless. Okay, on to what I am going to call and going to say is the sexiest album of the year. The album that I learned the hard way that you should not listen to in a car with your family.
It's not explicit. Okay, so first,
it's not explicit, but then when you look at the lyrics, you're like, oh.
Yeah, the new album by a band called The Home Team from Seattle. They are like an up-and-coming bigger band, and they deserve it. The album is called The Crucible of Life, which I think was a euphemism.
This album definitely picked up where Issues left off, and I do enjoy that.
And it also picked up and expanded on where their last album came from. I'm totally blanking on what the fuck their last album was named, and that's a shame, and I'm very sorry to the Home Team. Brian, don't yell at me.
Yeah.
With the anime cat face. Hang on. Please hold.
Yeah,
Slow Bloom.
That's what it was, yes.
It had the
that's
Japanese
a solid
artwork.
album.
That is, but this picked up where that left off in a good way
Yeah.
and expanded on it. So this album is, for those of you who don't know, if you walk into this thinking that it's going to be a metal or super hard rock album, it's not. It's like a funk, pop, rock, post-hardcore type album. And don't let that genre mesh scare you. But it is the sexiest album of the year. And by that, I don't mean that it's like Nickelback, like grotesque sexy. It's like you could totally get down to this
Nickelback
album.
and sexy should not be in the same sentence.
No. But you could totally get down to this album, and also you could totally throw a dance party to it. In fact, last night I was listening to it while I'm security. I probably look like the biggest weirdo. I'm outside a bar with chains on my wallet, Adidas shoes. I'm got an MMA shirt on, my jacket, and a big beanie, and I'm sitting there like bobbing my head, like dancing outside the bar because it's just like such a great little album to like bop to, and I can't even dance. Josh is just staring.
No, that's just. I'm used to that from you, so it just all I'm gonna walk by and see is like, oh, he's having a good night tonight.
Yes, yeah.
It's not like me where it's resting bitch face and they're like, oh man, this guy looks so angry. He must be listening to death metal, and then I'm listening to fucking James Brown in my headphones.
Right. Well, like everything in this album, if you haven't picked up, most of the songs, other than like Roommates and a couple other like songs that are, it's funny, all the songs in here are about like real life, normal, like it's almost like watching a sitcom. Because they have a song on there called Roommates, and it's literally just about how you're sick of your roommate.
I actually really like the song Brag off this album.
Oh, I do too. Brag is my favorite track just because of the pre-chorus.
Yeah, and that super slick guitar opening.
Yes. So most of the songs on this album, at least Loud, Brag, and Turn You Off, are most certainly about getting down with your lady, if you will.
Or your man, we're not biased.
Yeah, no, or your man, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Loud is literally about how he likes his girl to be louder in bed.
Yeah, I found that one out the hard way because I was sitting there kind of bobbing my head listening to it in the car with my wife and 2 daughters. And I was like, I wonder what the lyrics are. It's like, oh, we're going to go back to Cannibal Corpse, kids.
Yeah. That moment where you have to turn off the home team with the kids and turn on Cannibal Corpse.
Well, it's like the kids get down to the last album, so they're like, oh, the new one's out, huh? Can we listen to it? It's like, yeah. Then I was like, oh no.
You show the wife the lyrics, and she's like, oh, okay.
No, it was more like, I'm going to change it. You guys want to listen to Eminence? That's a band I like.
What'd you think of the album?
Your album sounds like a fun, happy time that can make fun time with your lady actually fun and enjoyable. Not like my album that sounds like what happened in Ed Gein's head when he made the gloves. Be and take that how you will.
Oh my word, that was the greatest thing you've ever said in your life.
Oh, don't worry, I'll up myself somehow. I enjoyed your album. Like I enjoyed Home Team off the last album, and like I said, I enjoyed Issues, so I feel like this kind of picked up in a way like the void that Issues left. And went on without trying to be like it's Issues 2.0 because we kept a similar sound.
Right. I also think that this album, my only hang up with this album is compared to Slow Bloom. I feel like this album sounds a little bit samey if you listen to the whole thing all the way through. Mm-hmm. Whereas Slow Bloom had a little bit more variety, had a slower track, a couple slower tracks, a couple medium tracks. It kind of went back and forth. But again, kind of like what I said about Wage War, this album just sounds like the guys were having so much fucking fun making it.
I mean, you watch their videos. Like, you watch the videos back on, I think, Move Through Me from their last album. Like,
yeah,
that singer's like sitting there, there's just a big fucking shit-eating smile on his face the whole time. And you can tell that he's just, doesn't matter if he's, kind of reminds me of the same energy that, oh shit, what's his name? Mother Love Bones singer.
Andrew Wood?
Yeah. Reminds me a lot of, like, that charismaticness that he had, where it was like, that guy could own a stage with 10 people watching him or 100,000 people. I feel like Home Team singer kind of has that same magnetic trait to his personality, where it's like he can be on stage with 10 people watching him and could just be having the time of his life. 100,000 people, he could still be kind of infecting their moods to kind of bringing eyes on him.
And even more to that point, if you watch any of their shorts or like their music videos, as you said, especially lately, their shorts that they've been putting out to advertise the album are literally just him in a room dancing and singing the song.
Yeah.
That's the whole. It's like Michael Jackson dancing and having a good time.
That was the one track off the last album. It was Watching All Your Friends Get Rich, where it was just them dressed as all the different big serial killers working in an office.
Yes, and it was all just a giant joke.
Yeah, like they definitely have that, not jokey quality, but you can tell they have fun with their music.
I call it lighthearted. They're very, very lighthearted.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's just everything's good. Life's great. It's not funny as in we're making fun of something. Like I said, the song Roommates is technically an angry song about being tired of your roommate that just is just that you're sick of. But it's still a lighthearted way to approach it. Of like, hey, look, time to be over. Can you move out now, please?
You're saying you don't feel lighthearted from my album?
Not at all. In fact, I feel quite angry about your album.
Good. That's how you should feel.
Jeez. All right. Do we have anything else to hit before we wrap it all up?
The drummer of Insade, his name is Maylong. I thought that was interesting. He's only listed as Maylong.
Did you? I feel like the guy from TikTok. Did you know that? And then just random fact. Now you do. And walks away.
I got stuck in a rabbit hole of that where it's just like, it popped up on social media like, did you know that if your nose was cut off, they can graft one from your forehead? And just showed the whole process of a dude growing a forehead nose and then just cutting that forehead nose off and putting it on his actual nose.
I love
like,
humans.
I don't, this doesn't pertain to me, sir.
All right. And with that, this has been the Dissonant Harmonics Podcast. I have been Frasier.
And I have always been Josh, only here to make Frasier angry.
He's not only here to make me angry. And we will catch you next week.